Hey kids, it's Mr. Flyer here, hope you're well, and welcome back to another episode of Bike News, the series here on the channel where I go through the latest copies of MCN to find out what's been going on in the world of motorcycling here in the UK for the last month. This time, we're talking May 2023. Alrighty, without further ado, let's crack on, see what's been going on in the world of motorcycle news then. First thing here, covert speed camera threat. I thought this one was a little bit cheeky. It says here, questions asked as police deploy unmarked camera van in a bid to snare speeding motorists. What do you think about this one? It says here, Northamptonshire police have begun using an unmarked mobile speed camera van, sparking debate about its fairness and motivation. Head of Operations at Northamptonshire Police, Superintendent Jen Helms, said, "There are those who choose to deliberately drive or ride irresponsibly or illegally on our roads when they think they can get away with it. This is what unmarked enforcement van is designed to tackle. Northamptonshire Police doesn't profit directly from fixed penalty notices or court fines. This, in fact, goes to the Treasury's Consolidated Fund and used by the government for general expenditure." So, in other words, they're saying we're doing this because if you have a marked van, it makes people slow down. If you have an unmarked van, they don't. They just ride or drive normally. Okay, I kind of get the psychology. And it's also saying we're not doing this to make money because the money just goes to the Treasury anyway. So I understand that, and I've never believed that the police do this sort of thing to make money. But I don't know, I can't help thinking the unmarked van is a little bit underhanded. I wondered what you thought about this. It's difficult to argue, isn't it? It's difficult to argue against riding illegally. Let's face it, on motorcycles in particular, it can sometimes be quite hard to ride within speed limits, particularly if it's the 20-mile-an-hour limits or 30s. Yeah, it seems really, really slow on a motorcycle. I mean, I do try, of course, to adhere to speed limits at all times, but it can be difficult, particularly on a bike. And it just feels to me a little bit underhanded, this. It turns out it's not a legal requirement for the police to let you know if there is a speed camera coming up or a speed van. I thought that might be the case. Usually you see a little sign, don't you, warning you that it's a speed check area. Well, that's not a legal requirement. They don't have to do that, it turns out. So these vans are getting out there in Northamptonshire. So if you're riding up that way this weekend, just be careful, keep within the speed limits, don't ride like an idiot, because, you know, you're going to get caught. And if you are riding like an idiot, well, I guess you kind of deserve it. So there we go, be warned. Right, next up, exploding trousers. Now this is a headline that caught my eye. Now, you know, Helite, the people that make the airbag vests, I've got one of those and I think it's a great product, but personally I don't wear it very often. It's the one that has the tether that you attach to the bike, so that if you come off the bike it automatically deploys the airbag. I like that manual deployment because there's no electronics to go wrong. And it is a great product, and I'm convinced it's a great aid to safety, but what I found is it's just too bulky to wear, just too heavy. Unless it's in the depths of winter when you're bulked up anyway, then I tend not to use it. It's a great product, as I say, but in the summer, because it's basically it's like a big almost like a carrier bag inside a waistcoat, it doesn't let the air through and you get so hot, it's so heavy. If you get off the bike you have to carry it around. It's just not convenient. I suspect the exploding trousers fall into that category. Anyway, let's have a little read what it says here. Airbag jackets are nothing new, but now one Swedish firm is taking this inflating tech a step further. Helite airbag jeans cost around £399, so they're twice the price of a normal pair of, well, twice or three times the price of a normal pair of biking jeans. They're designed to inflate and protect your upper legs and lower back should you take a spill. The inflation process here is entirely manual, using no electronic components. That means it's no problem to swap gas canisters at home after deployment, and you won't need to send the jeans back to the manufacturer for a factory refresh, which is the problem with some of those airbag jackets that are electronically deployed. You have to send them back to the manufacturer if you have a deployment. Not the case here, so that's good. The downside, again, I imagine, is just that these will, I expect, be really bulky. Again, you can't, you know, it's very difficult to argue against safety, isn't it, and precautions. I mean, when you look at them inflated here, they look absolutely hilarious. But, so I'm sure it's a great product, and I'm sure they do aid in safety. But again, practically, if you're uncomfortable, if you're too hot and too bulky, you're not going to wear them. And then there is an argument, isn't there, to say that if you are uncomfortable, that in itself is unsafe. So, I don't know. For me personally, I do wear jeans, motorcycle jeans on the bike a lot. I'm a big fan of them, they're really convenient. But I think going for the airbag ones, for me, would be one step too far. Interested to hear your thoughts on that one as well. Do you think safety trumps all other factors? Or is actually the comfort and the, you know, the temperature is that an important point for you too? Certainly is for me. Okay, next story in here, clever tech, classic vibe. This is the new Ducati Scrambler. Now, I rode the original Scrambler ages ago. It was possibly, I don't know, 2018, 2017. It's one of the first bikes I ever reviewed, I think. And I wasn't that much of a fan of it. I just felt that it was a little bit too light and it felt a little bit too toy-like. Maybe I'd like it more now, I don't know. And there's something about the looks of it that didn't quite work for me. But Ducati have now come out with a newer version of it. And I saw one of these actually a couple of weeks ago. I've just come back from a tour in Italy and we rode up to Bologna one day to go to this Scrambler restaurant, which is quite near the Ducati factory. We had a mill there. There's videos coming up on this, by the way. And also we went to the Ducati Museum, and in there they were displaying this new version of the Scrambler. And I have to say, it looks completely different to the old one, and it does look quite cool now. I've always been a fan of the bigger Scrambler, by the way. It's the 1100 that I like, but the smaller one has now been revamped. It looks better when you see it in the flesh. What does it say here? It's got a ride-by-wire throttle now. The old bike didn't have that. It's been a long time coming for a ride-by-wire throttle, so it's got that. It's got a sportier riding position, which is a bit of a downside. I mean, it depends what they mean by sportier riding position. To me personally, I like the comfort that these sort of retro bikes offer, and if you start making you leaning too far forward over the handlebars, you get into sports bike territory and it gets uncomfortable. I don't think it'll be talking that with the new Scrambler, but anyway, it's got a sportier riding position. Entirely new chassis apparently, better traction control and ABS, and it's got riding modes for the first time. I'm not a massive fan of riding modes, but certainly sort of a road and a rain one doesn't go amiss, but anything beyond that is probably above and beyond for what I need personally. Anyway, let's see what Adam Child here, the MCN reviewer, says. Ducati face more competition of greater quality than they did when they launched the Scrambler in 2014. Goodness me. Been around for a while, hasn't it? Needed a refresh. It's more fun with better kit and comfort. We'll be keen to see how the changes feel against rivals such as the Triumph Scrambler 900 and Fantic's new MT-07 powered Caballero 700 in particular, which promises to give the Ducati a hard time. Comes in at $9,995, which is quite a lot of money, isn't it? I know it's a Ducati and you pay a bit of a Ducati premium, but you can get a Triumph Street Triple R for that, which I've recently been riding. More about that later. And I know which one I'd rather have, but I don't know, for some reason I've got a bit of a downer on the Scrambler from Ducati, but it is getting better now. I must admit this new one does look like a good improvement. First story I've picked out here, return of the SMT. So this is a KTM. KTM hope to stamp their authority on the Supermoto touring segment with a new 890. After endless spy shots and teaser trailers, it does seem that we've been hearing about this for a long time, doesn't it? The eagerly anticipated KTM 890 SMT is here, the first bike in the range to bear the Supermoto touring name since the V-twin 990 SMT of the late noughties. It tips the scales at 194 kilograms. Didn't say if that's wet or dry. It's not that light, is it, I guess? Powered by the firm's Euro 5 compliant 889cc parallel twin. It looks set up to go against the likes of BMW's F900 XR and MV Agusta's Turismo Veloce, making a claimed 103.6 brake horsepower. So not masses of power, but more than enough for the road, it has to be said. KTM say that the bikers are happy to plod along at low revs as it is revving out the top end and has a claimed fuel economy of 51.1 miles per gallon. So what do you make of this one then? I'm often critical of the way that KTMs look, and to be fair, I'm one of the odd people that actually quite likes the front end, the lights. I love what the KTM have done with the lights on most of their models. I like that sort of bug-eyed look that they've got. But overall, the bikes never quite do it for me. They never tug at the heartstrings in a way that you know, some Triumphs or Ducatis do. It just doesn't look special to me. I'm sure it rides amazingly well, but no, for me, this doesn't work from a looks point of view. I'm not really a big Supermoto rider. I've not ridden too many. In fact, I don't know if I've ever ridden any. I really should get into it. My mate Lamb Chop is a massive fan of Supermotos, so I'm sure he'll be jumping on one of these as soon as he can. Be interested to see what he thinks of it, and maybe I should see if he can convince me to have a go. I would like to have a go. Maybe I'll be converted, but I must admit, the looks don't do it for me. Now this is an amazing story, this one. I never imagined I'd see it again. This is a chap that had his motorbike stolen and then the police recovered it some years later. Listen to this, this is incredible. Bike returns 27 years later and it's been fully restored. So Stephen Betts was taken aback to be reunited with his aerial Red Hunter a full 27 years after it was nicked. Better still, it had been fully restored. How about that then? The new owner had bought the bike off of eBay without realising it had been stolen. He'd put his heart and soul into it, so was understandably upset. He was very gracious though, and we were able to come to an arrangement whereby I'd compensate him for his time and money. So basically, some poor fella bought this bike in good faith, didn't know it was stolen, did the thing up, And then the original owner came back, and of course it is still technically his bike. So great that they were able to end it amicably by exchanging some cash, and really good that Stephen Betts got his original bike back. What about that? That was incredible. So I love that story. Great, great ending. Well done those guys. 27 years in the making. Incredible. Right, next, a welcome addition. The new Yamaha Tracer 9GT Plus has taken an already decent bike and made some significant improvements, but is it worth nearly 15k? So the Tracer 9GT, I was always a fan of the way it rode, and it was always well equipped. What I didn't like about it was that horrible little split dash thing that they did. But it is a great bike. Looks maybe a little bit challenging at the front end, but certainly I think it probably is worth 15k when you look at what else is on the market for that. But let's see what MCN say. The new Tracer 9 GT Plus is the most advanced sports tourer Yamaha have ever built. It's also the first motorcycle to offer radar-linked unified braking, an ingenious system that slows the bike should it detect a vehicle ahead braking unexpectedly. The Plus references a whole host of new updates. The GT Plus does away with the hard-to-read dual-pod instrument, that's good, and it gains a new 7-inch TFT display. So well done Yamaha for listening and making that change. I'm sure that'll make a lot of difference to a lot of people. The switchgear has been redesigned, as has the screen. The seat has been tweaked for comfort and control. The riding position is now fully adjustable. Footrest handlebars that can be raised or lowered. 3rd gen quick shifter comes as standard, as does adaptive cruise control. So it's got plenty of tech on it, all for the 15k. So to answer their question, it sounds to me like it probably is worth the 15k. It looks like they've got a summary here, a verdict. Let's see what they thought of it when they rode it. This is Jim Moore. Yamaha have taken a brilliant bike and made it even better. With its premium feel, improved comfort, usability, function and purpose, the GT Plus more than justifies its position at the top of Yamaha's sports tourer range. So they haven't really answered the question there, but I guess it is worth the 15k. So yeah, MCN like it. I have to say, I overall do like it, having ridden the Tracer. It always feels light and agile, and it goes really nicely. And with these new features as well, looks good. And also, I'm glad to see that the radar on the front isn't that obtrusive. It doesn't look, you know, kind of bolted on. It's hidden away nicely. So hopefully we're going to see that on more and more new bikes over the next few years. Okay, next, clash of the compact cruisers. Now I pulled this one out because this is a bunch of bikes that MCN have done one of their group tests on. So it's the Royal Enfield Super Meteor 650, the Honda CMX500 Rebel Special Edition, and the Kawasaki Vulcan S. The reason I pull this out is because this is a classification of bikes that I'm not too keen on. I do like retros, they're one of my favourite classifications of bikes, but these middleweight sort of cruiser retros don't really do it for me. I quite like the look of the Vulcan S, but I'm not sure. The Honda Rebel, for me, is just too upright at the front. There's something wrong with the tank. The looks of it just don't work for me. And the Enfield Super Meteor 650, again, the looks of it for me don't do anything. So I haven't actually ridden any of these, or indeed I think seen them in the flesh. Well, I have seen them in the flesh actually, but I'm no expert on this, so I can only go by what MCN says. So let's go to the verdict on this, see what they say. This is Dan Sutherland. He says, out of the 3 mini cruisers I tested, the Enfield is the clear winner. Not only is it the best value, it also delivers the full cruiser experience without feeling like just an A2 bike. You could buy it and keep it forever. It does all that is requested of it, and it has character and soul. So Dan's a big fan of the Royal Enfield. In terms of their star rating, they gave the Rebel 3 out of 5, so not a great rating. The Vulcan S 4 out of 5, and the Enfield 5 out of 5. So their top score for that. Now I did ask a couple of bike news ago whether you wanted to see me ride the Super Meteor, because I know it is quite a popular bike. I know I'm one of the out crowd, not saying I like the look of it, and I don't like feet forward very much either, by the way. Anyway, I've spoken to Royal Enfield. I am getting one of these shipped to me, I think in the next 2 months. I think it's in July I'm getting it. I can't remember without checking my calendar. So I am going to be riding this. I might modify my views once I've had a go on it. I do look forward to having a go on it, but just, you know, on paper, not my type of bike. Wondered what you thought of those 3 and whether you think MCN have got that right. All right, next up. I'm hoping the camera's not going to overheat this week. I've got a fan plugged in that's blowing on the camera, so I'm hoping it's keeping the temperature down. Right, let's see. No new retros at Ducati. So following on from our story about the Scrambler, turns out focus remains on the current Scrambler range, but there are no immediate plans to diversify at Ducati, so they say. The head of Ducati's Scrambler program, Rocco Canosa, has told MCN that the Bologna brand have no current plans to diversify their retro lineup. instead focusing their attention on the rejuvenated 6-strong Scrambler range. Some Scrambler and retro fans may be disappointed by the lack of model diversity compared to ranges from other brands including Triumph and BMW, with some thinking Ducati should revive the handsome Sport Classic range. Now the Sport Classic range, if I remember rightly, was something Ducati tried, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, where they brought out a bunch of retros and they didn't sell. So they were kind of ahead of their time really, because I guess the retro craze really kicked off about 10 years ago and has been going ever since. I guess started by the latest wave of Triumph Bonnevilles, which kind of upped the game in terms of build quality, rideability and so on. But Ducati is saying no plans to do anything other than the Scrambler, and I think that's fair enough. You know, brands like Ducati are known, aren't they, for high quality exotic machines. I'm not saying a retro can't be high quality and exotic, but they're normally at the forefront of technology, and I think brands like that should stick with what they know best. It annoys me in the car world when, you know, you get a Porsche 4x4 or a Bentley 4x4 or even a Rolls-Royce off-roader. They should kind of stick with the stuff that they know. If you're known for a certain niche, I think you should stick with it. Just my view. Interested to see if you agree or disagree on that one. Okay, clutchless Snickers. This is interesting because another KTM story. KTM working on a centrifugal clutch, an auto shift for a range of big twins. Honda have now sold over 200,000 motorcycles across Europe equipped with their DCT system, the dual clutch transmission. I've got that on my Goldwing. I'm a massive fan. It's brilliant. And now KTM are preparing to get in on the action with an automated version of their 1301cc LC8 V-twin. This is the engine on the Super Adventure. This is interesting. While the Honda dual clutch transmission is complex and heavy, the KTM design is far more straightforward. It uses a centrifugal clutch to connect the engine and transmission, engaging when revs rise much above idle to let you start and stop without using the clutch lever. Once you're on the move, an up and down quick shifter and blipper system means gear shifts can be performed without disengaging the clutch. Interesting. It's going to be fascinating to see how this works in practice. To me, when I hear centrifugal clutch, I immediately think scooters. Now, it works fine on scooters. They're not performance machines, of course. But I always found when I'm riding scooters with a centrifugal clutch, that when you pull away and you've got that kind of clutch slipping feeling until it engages, it's a bit odd. And I suspect that's what you get on the new KTM. I don't know. We'll see when it comes out. I don't know how far off it is in the future. I like the idea. I am a fan on particularly bikes designed for touring. It's a bit like an automatic gearbox in a car. You know, if you're doing long journeys or you're even actually commuting, they're really, really good. And once you've tried one, you tend not to go back. But if you're riding a bike sportily, then I think having a manual is absolutely fine. So interesting to see how this is going to work out on the KTM Super Adventure, if indeed that is the bike that ends up getting it, and fascinating to see how it actually feels in practice. Right, did I buy the right bike? MCN's new boy ponders the perfect choice for A2 licensed thriller. So this is a guy called Joseph Wright. He's just joined MCN. He's 22 years old, and he's at the start of his biking journey. Unusually for one so young, he bought a bike as old as he is, a Kawasaki ZXR900, a poster bike of the 90s. So he's bought an older bike. Don't know how he found it, but it looks lovely, in great nick, and he paid £4 for it. It looks an absolute hoon. So yeah, and then he's going to compare it, I think, with some other bikes of that type. So let's see what the verdict was. Nevesy's written this up. So he compared it with a Yamaha MT-07 and a Honda CB750R. I love the 500R. The MT-07's okay as well. I know lots of people love it. I'm not a massive fan of it. Nevesy said he was right first time. Joseph racked up almost 4,000 miles during his 2-week stint and is convinced he bought the right bike. Knowing what I know now, I'll still choose the ZXR400. It's more special and I can get more enjoyment from a 45-minute ride than I managed on the Honda and Yamaha over thousands of miles. So well done, Joseph, for going off-piste. Great choice by the looks of it. It certainly looks better than those other bikes, doesn't it? It looks like a proper bike. Really not, and also by far the cheapest, £4. If you can find one of them, I'd say snap it up. I'm one myself, I must say. Interesting, so they gave the Kawasaki 5 stars, the Honda CBR500 4 and the Yamaha MT-07 3. Interesting that, quite a nice review. Let's see what he thinks in a few years' time, whether he's still going for the older bikes. There's a lot to be said for older second-hand bikes, it has to be said. In fact, I'm thinking about doing a new series on the channel. You remember I do a classic bike review every now and then. I try and do one a month. I'm thinking of alongside that, or as well as, or maybe instead of, I don't know, depends how it pans out, borrowing some bikes from my sponsor Superbike Factory and actually doing reviews just of second-hand bikes, doing something like a, you know, best second-hand buys or something, I don't know. So interested in any bikes that you think I should review on that basis, so they don't have to be particularly old, just not brand new. So anything, you know, I don't know, say up to 5 years old, any particular bikes you'd like to see me ride in that series, and I'll see if I can do that over the next few months. I think that could be quite interesting. Anyway, I digress. Next story. Long range Looney Tunes KTM's 890 SMT can do daily rides, big trips and hooliganism in equal measure. So this is the bike we looked at earlier, so I won't dwell on it, but they have now had a chance to ride it. So Chris Newbigging, who rode the bike, said the SMT is the sportier end of the sport touring sector. The main issue is price. $12,499 doesn't include cruise control, heated grips, quick shifter, or the ability to fine-tune the electronics for sportier tastes. Pound for pound rivals a better value, and being asked to pay for features that are present but locked out feels a bit salty. Now this is a bummer. We've talked about this before, haven't we, on Bike News. This is the fact that when you buy the bike, it comes in demo mode with everything unlocked. You can use all the features, but then after a certain period, you have to pay extra. So it says here, options. So for 900 miles, you get everything in demo mode. Then they're locked out, and you have to pay a dealer to turn them back on again. The tack pack with all the goodies is 860 quid. Oh, just something feels wrong about that. So you buy the bike, you get to play with all the toys, and then they're turned off after 900 miles. Not good, KTM, not good. Need to sort that out. I so hope that doesn't work well for KTM and other manufacturers go down that route. It just feels wrong, doesn't it? Okay. Last one in this paper, dialing up the excess. As if it wasn't loaded enough already, the new Kawasaki H2 SX SE gets even more tech toys. Now this is a bike that I have ridden yonks ago, haven't ridden it for a while. I need to change that. Kawasaki now, I'm really pleased to say, are talking to the likes of me, YouTubers, and are now lending out bikes, I think to a certain privileged few, of which I'm one, so I'm very lucky there. So thank you, Kawasaki. I need to talk to them about maybe getting hold of one of these, because I think this is a bike that will be of great interest to my viewers, it being a sport touring bike, you know, a category of bikes that certainly appeals to me. Let's see what MCN say. Kawasaki's latest H2 SX SE costs $25,649. That's a boatload of cash in anyone's book, it certainly is. Supercharged, 197 brake horsepower, 998cc inline four, so it's going to be smooth as you like and quick as you like. The H2 SX SE's lean sensitive traction control, supersized cornering lights, 3-stage forward collision warning system controlled by Bosch radar. There's that radar again. I do like the idea of that, I must say. It's got Bluetooth enabled 6.5-inch multifunction colour dash. Not worried about the Bluetooth enablement. And 6.5-inch sounds quite small these days, doesn't it? But might be enough. We shall see. It gets new adaptive cruise control, which is what I like about the radar thing. Orange blind spot detector lights in the mirrors, which I really like about having radar on a bike, is the blind spot mirror detection. That's an excellent feature. Gosh, I so hope the new BMW GS has that. Auto high beam, activated by a small camera secreted in the base of the screen. Not so sure about that. I've got that on some of my cars. Doesn't work. It's a bit slow in reacting sometimes, and you sometimes feel you have to override it because you get people flashing you. I suspect the version on the bike might be the same. We shall see. It says here actually the system doesn't dip the lights when you see headlights from a distance or from around a corner. They don't go back to high beam fast enough after a vehicle has passed either, which is the issue I've found on the car. So you can keep your auto high beam, I think, but other than that it sounds good, doesn't it? Let's see what the verdict is from Neevesy. With its mix of supercharged power, unflappable handling and spec, this is an endlessly impressive bike. What it really needs is an electric screen, slightly taller bars and lower pegs. So the implication being there it's a bit of a sporty feeling ride, maybe not as comfortable as it might be, but you'll have to have a go and see. The only downside with it, as far as I can see, on paper it sounds brilliant, doesn't it, except for that price maybe. But I don't know, it doesn't look, the front end looks a bit bulbous to me. Again, it's not one of those bikes you're going to look back at in the garage. Is that just me, or do you think this is a handsome looking bike? It's not ugly, but it's not beautiful either. Interested to see if it's just me or whether you agree with me. Right. 2 more papers to go, then we're going to get to some Parish Notices, lots to tell you about. So stay tuned for that if you're interested. Next up, Moto E-Level Performance. UK brand ARC delivers first Vector to Movistar and firm up plans for new super sport models. So this is the Vector from ARC Motorcycles. We saw this a while back on Bike News. It seems to be a long time coming. It says here, West Midlands electric firm ARC Motorcycles have now delivered 7 Vector production bikes, with the first going to Hollywood A-lister Ryan Reynolds. The second went to a Middle Eastern royalty apparently, so that gives you an indication of the sort of money you have to have one of these. They've so far taken deposits for 20 bikes. The commentary business intend to build 50 of the, here we go, 98,000 Vectors over the next 12 months. They're £98,000 these bikes. The bike produces 115 bhp. You can get a street triple that does about that for less than 10 grand. 128 foot-pounds of torque and tips the scales at a whopping 240 kilograms. So it's got, I would say, challenging looks. It's pretty heavy. It's eye-wateringly expensive. There's nothing about this bike that appeals to me. I'm surprised that they've sold 7 already, particularly at that price. I love British brands, and I'm a big fan of you know, British industry and British industry, and the motorcycle industry in particular. But this just sounds way off the mark. Now it might be small volume manufacturing. There are enough super rich people around with, you could argue, more money than sense that would buy this. But even if I had 98 grand burning a hole in my pocket, there's just so many better bikes you could buy, isn't there? For that, you could buy 10 better bikes than that. So, I don't know, maybe I'm being unkind. I'm sorry, Vector, but no, it's a miss for me, that one. Right, spot the difference. BMW bring their R9T retro range into the modern era with the new R12nineT. So I saw a Moto Bob video on this a few weeks back. Looks amazing. It's just an announcement, I think, that's been made by BMW that they've ramped up the R9T, and it's now called the R12nineT, which I personally find a little bit of a mouthful. If you just think of it as a 1290, rolls off the tongue. But if you look at the words R12nineT, it's harder to say. I don't know, go figure. Anyway, what's the difference? It says here, BMW are preparing to reveal their next generation of retro roadsters, teasing a new R12nineT model to a select group of journalists at the Motorrad HQ in Munich. While much has changed under the skin, they haven't messed with the winning formula. It's been around for a while, the R9T, hasn't it? It's a brilliant looking retro. I'm not sure why I haven't owned one, actually, because they are lovely, but it is due a refresh, so this is great news. The bike retains the air oil-cooled 1170cc boxer twin from the non-shift cam R1200 GS, so it's the older version of the engine, which is perfectly fine in this sort of bike. Got lots of character, bit of rock and roll if you like that. We tried to clean all the clutter and make the bike very straight and make it more dynamic with improved ergonomics and super dynamic in terms of riding. The twin cylinder motor will be held in a revised tubular steel chassis. Other notable changes include cylinder head covers, bodywork tweaks, and revised 17-inch spoked rim design, and the angle of the shock is also completely different. So some fairly significant changes there. It looks quite different. Cannot wait to see this in the flesh. Really hoping I can get hold of one of these from BMW when they are available, because this is right up my street, this sort of bike. So yeah, the new R12nineT, bit of a mouthful, but a lovely looking bike. Looking forward to seeing more of that. Next, synthetic fuel is go. We often talk about fuels and alternative fuels on it. It seems that, you know, like it or not, internal combustion engine is going to have to change in the next few years. But this is good news if you're a combustion engine fan, because it says here, HIF Global have secured a permit to build the world's largest e-fuel plant in southern Texas, with construction set to start in 2024. In December, our e-fuel facility in southern Chile began production of e-gasoline, showing the world that carbon-neutral e-fuels go straight into existing car engines to decarbonise the infrastructure we use every day. This is great news. So basically, new fuel, it's an e-fuel, so you can stick it in your car as usual. Nothing has to change about your engine, but it's carbon neutral. I'm liking the sound of this. This surely has to be the way to go. You can stick it in the pumps in the already existing garages. You don't need a new infrastructure, except for the infrastructure to actually make the fuel. It says here, the e-fuel will be made by combining 2 million tonnes of recycled carbon dioxide with 300,000 tonnes of hydrogen, separated from water using renewable electricity. Now that's the key bit, because although there's plenty of hydrogen in the universe, in fact, it's one of the most abundant elements, it's quite hard to get hold of. They use a lot of electricity to separate it out from water, for example. But it says here the electricity is going to be renewable. E-fuel is carbon neutral because the CO2 produced when it is burned in engines was sucked out of the environment in the first place. So it's a bit back to front, but it is carbon neutral. Love the sound of that. What do you think to that? Would you rather be riding an internal combustion engine motorcycle with this synthetic fuel rather than an electric bike? Let me know. I know what I'd rather be doing. Okay. Are 200 brake horsepower naked just too much? Well, it depends, doesn't it, where you're riding it, I guess. So it says here, the Italian Motor Jeep. So this is, let's start again. Now what we're doing is comparing the BMW M1000R with Ducati's Streetfighter V4S. Both amazing bikes. I've ridden the Streetfighter, not the M1000R, although I did recently watch my mate Land Chop video on riding the M1000R. Incredible video. If you've not seen that, go and check it out. He absolutely loved the thing. It's a Huna like his dream bike, it seems. Anyway, it says here, the motor-derived V4 in the Ducati pumps out 205 brake horsepower, and the German's inline 4 has 207, so they're within the snifter of each other. Makes it the most powerful naked money can buy. Aren't these big numbers getting a bit silly for road bikes with all the aerodynamics of a house brick? Well, I would say yes for a road bike. You don't need that for the road. Undeniably fun, but for me, that sort of power, I just don't have the self-control. I would be winding this up all the time, and I'm either going to end up losing my license because I'm speeding everywhere, or I'm going to come off and kill myself. So for me, as much as I love them and I love that they exist, I wouldn't dare buy one because something bad is going to happen if I did. Let's see what the verdict is from Nevesy. Go for the V4 beast, he says. Are 200 brake horsepower nakeds too much? Well, thanks to clever mapping and rider aids, that kind of power is manageable. And I found this when I rode the V4 actually. You can ride it very docile if you want to, and it's very, very easy to ride. It's only if you go nuts that awesome power becomes evident. And that's what you don't want to do, of course. Anyway, that kind of power is manageable thanks to rider aids. Whether you can actually use it all is another matter, and that's the point, isn't it? You'll be lucky to find the room to get the Streetfighter V4S or M1000R past half revs on the road. So I'm a road rider predominantly. For me, bit of a waste of time. If you're on a track, maybe, but then if you're going to go track wise, then why not get the sports bike? So not quite sure. I'm sure they'll sell well because people all love the biggest and best, don't they? And they do look lovely, and they are amazing marvels of engineering. I do appreciate them, there's no doubt about that. They give them both 4 stars, but Nevesy is saying that the V4 is the one to have. It says here, the new V4 is loud, angry and cram full of the very best of the best components. It's the 200 brake horsepower beast to go for, even if you never use a fraction of its power. So there we go. I certainly like the looks of the Ducati. I never used to like the looks of the Streetfighter, but I've completely come round to it, having ridden the original version of the Streetfighter V4. Lovely bike. But it's 23 grand versus 20 grand for the M1000R. Maybe I should, dare I have a go of the M1000R? Maybe as it's summer and it's getting drier, perhaps I should. We'll see. I'll only frighten myself. Here we go, punching above its price tag. Emma Franklin, the deputy editor for MCN, she's been riding a Street Triple 765, the Street Triple R, the new one, as have I in the last week. And without wanting to do spoiler alerts on my reviews, what an amazing bike. I love the Street Triple R anyway, on all Street Triples, but fantastic machine. What does she say? Are we looking at Britain's best value fun machine? I think we probably are, Emma. Well, certainly the ones I've ridden. The first few weeks with the latest Street Triple R leads me to believe that we most certainly are. The entry level Street rocks all the electronic assists of its pricier, speckier brother, the RS, but does so at a price that makes you look twice. It's 9,595. Now compare this against what else you can get for sub 10 grand. I think this is the bargain of the year. In fact, maybe this is my bike of the year. I don't know. Well, now I've blown it for my review, haven't I? But I am a fan, as you can tell. Electronic masterpiece. Up and down quick shifter is standard. The base model Street Triple packs lean angle sensitive traction and wheelie control, as well as cornering ABS. I mean, it's a heck of a bike. It looks lovely. It sounds great. It rides brilliantly. And I'm with Emma. I think it's a fantastic bike. So stay tuned for my reviews, both of this and the RS coming soon. I was lucky enough to have from Triumph this last week, both bikes in the garage. So I've managed to do sort of a back-to-back comparison. The RS in the yellow looks, amazing bikes. And again, just shows that actually for road riding, they've got around about 110, 115 brake horsepower. That's all you need for the road to have an awful lot of fun if the mapping's right. In the fun range from sort of 30 to 60. Brilliant bikes, brilliant. All right, one more paper to go. Still with me? Camera's holding up all right. Let's hope I haven't talked anything up. Fan must be working. The festival of, oh no, sorry, wrong one. Finally, fuel for, oh yeah, this is another good news story. Petrol prices in the UK have dropped below 145p a litre for the first time in 18 months. Hallelujah. Definitely noticeable, isn't it, that prices at the pumps have dropped a lot. Certainly here in the UK. I don't know about other countries. It'd be interesting to know if you're watching in other countries whether your fuel has dropped too. The wholesale price of petrol is 110 pence apparently, according to RSE fuel spokesman Simon Williams. Drivers should not be paying any more than 142 pence. So this is from the paper dated May the 24th, so it's over a week old now. But there we go. Shouldn't be paying more than 142 apparently. Let's hope it goes down more. Great news that. Bit of a shocker when it went up, wasn't it? And now it's coming back to reasonable levels. Right, I've been a bit whingy on this bike news because here's another bike that I've never been a massive fan for. This is the Yamaha XSR900. Beautiful to ride, triple engine, loved riding it, don't like looking at it much. And Yamaha have had a go at making it look better by adding some body parts optional that you can get colour-coded. Do you think this helps? It says here, Yamaha have treated their 3-cylinder XSR900 Retro to a new mini front fairing and a rear seat cover. The new CAF Racer bodywork is set to become available as an optional accessory kit, which can be purchased from Yamaha's online store from next month. The special bolt-on kits can be colour matched to either the black or TZ-inspired blue livery designs. The bike is in the photos has had its pillion pegs removed for a neater back-end aesthetic. Also missing from this non-road legal version is a rear number plate hanger, front indicators and mirrors. So they've done the best they can to make this look as good as they can. Bear that in mind when you're looking at this picture. No prices have been set as MCM went to press. So personally, I do think that particularly that front cowling does improve the looks of the bike. But for me, the bike just looks a bit too upright. It's like somebody's taken it and just lifted it up. It needs squashing down a bit, and then I think it would look absolutely fine. It's a shame, as I say, it rides beautifully. I haven't ridden one for a while, but when I did, when it first came out, beautiful riding bike. Definitely looks better, I think, I think, with that cowling. Not sure it would tempt me to actually buy one, but it's moving in the right direction. For me, it's a thumbs up. What do you think? I like that. That's good. Okay, remains to be seen how much it costs, of course. Let's hope it's not too much. Okay, electric superbike manufacturer released limited edition designed in collaboration with F1 legend Mika Hakkinen. So I've already kind of blown what I think about electric bikes generally. My question to you on this one is, does a tie-up with a celeb or a famous motorsport person make you more likely to buy a bike? For me, it doesn't. I like to think it doesn't. Anyway, so I wonder why marketing departments persist with this. So here we got Verge Motorcycles. They've teamed up with two-time F1 world champion Mika Hakkinen to design a signature edition of their hubless electric superbike. Hakkinen was appointed to the company's advisory board. The Finnish Formula 1 legend is also one of the investors in the company, so that's why he's involved. The power unit, which offers 136.8 brake horsepower, can be completely recharged in 35 minutes. That's a good number. And it's said to give a rider a range of 217 miles of range. That's an amazing range for an electric bike. So the numbers are sounding good, except when we get to the price, of course. There's going to be 100 units available throughout Europe from vergemotorcycles.com, and they have an asking price of €80,000, so $69,450 for a bike that has a novel back wheel, but otherwise doesn't look very good, and has got Hakkinen's name associated with it. For me, that's neither good nor bad, but the bike itself, I'm sorry, again, not for me. God, I've got a bit of a downer on some of these today, haven't I? 70 grand for that. Again, give me a new street triple over that any day of the week. Oh! Let's not move on yet. Another story on this page. I'm not dead yet. This is the Niken or Niken from Yamaha. Remember this? This year Yamaha have updated the Niken, giving it all of the new MT-09 parts, which begs the question, why? I actually really like the Niken, but chatting to a few fellow journalists who are on the launch of the new model, this is John Ari speaking, by the way, whenever the subject of sales figures popped up, the Yamaha men tended to uncork another bottle of wine and rapidly change the subject. So they never released sales figures, but I suspect they didn't sell too well. So despite an RRP of $14,000 in 2020, you can get hardly used Niken for $7,500 now. So basically half price, just 3 years later. A new Niken GT is $16,210, so that's a heck of a saving if you want to sample the oddball. So there we go, as an example here of a Niken for sale for $7.5 grand. Maybe at that sort of price level it's worth a punt. It rides well, but it is a bit of an off-the-wall bike, isn't it? Don't know about that. I did enjoy riding it, but I don't think I would buy one. Maybe if it's $3.5 grand, I'd have a go for a week or two. But yeah, still maybe not for me. Interesting that some of these depreciation on that is massive if you bought one. I commiserate. Okay, here we go. A very relevant test now. The bargain battle. This is the MT-07 versus the Suzuki GSX-8S versus the Triumph Trident 660 and the CB750 Hornet from Honda. So I've ridden the Trident, I've ridden the Honda, haven't ridden the Suzuki, have ridden the Yamaha. Must ride the Suzuki because I've been seeing some rave reviews about this as well. I'm going to be very late to this party. I'm always late to this party. But I like to let these bikes settle in a bit and then ride them a bit realistically, as opposed to in test conditions in Spain on warm roads or whatever. Anyway, for me, the pick of the bunch without having ridden the GSX-8S is probably the Honda Hornet. Actually, I did like that. I did love the Triumph Trident too, but I think the Hornet is a bit more up my street for some reason. Let's see what the verdict is, whether they think the Suzuki trumps it. Here we go. This is John Ari again. The GSX-8S edges it, he says. If someone came up to me and said they were looking to buy any one of these four bikes, I wouldn't hesitate to recommend them. They're all brilliant. You know, I'd agree with that. If you want to pick a winner, and I do, the Suzuki narrowly edges it. The GSX-8S, shame about the name, has bags of lower mid-range run, a lovely feeling of security, as well as agility on the road and all the tech you could ever need. Although it's cheaper and nimbler, the Honda's power isn't as strong low down. The MT-07 is fabulous, but feels like it needs a bit of an overhaul. The Trident feels a bit targeted towards new riders. So there we go. John Ari says the GX-8S is it. I'll have to have a go, see if I agree. The look's a bit, not too sure. It's almost a bit Katana-ish from the edge, isn't it? From the side and from the front. I don't like the stacked headlights, but it sounds like rides really well. Anyway, there we go. That's it for bike news, which means it's time for... Alright, time then for some Parish Notices, and eagle-eyed ones amongst you will notice a little continuity change in this video. I've got a new shirt on. This got sent to me recently. We'll talk more about that later. First, well, in fact, let's talk about it now. The ABR Festival is coming up on June the 22nd. That's what this t-shirt is all about. This is the new for 2023 ABR Festival t-shirt. I think there are a few available now if you want to get one. There are still a few tickets available for the ABR Festival. It's an amazing do. It's at the only sort of bike meet that I definitely go to every year. It's fantastic. If you haven't got a ticket yet and you want to go and you are free for the weekend from June the 22nd, which I think is the Thursday onwards, then TMF5 is a discount code for you to use at checkout. You get 5% off the ticket. So I do encourage you to do that. So I'll see you there if you're going. Cannot wait. I think most of you probably already got the tickets, but TMF5 for a discount. I mention it because number one, I cannot wait. It's coming up this coming month, so I'll see you there. Do come and say hello. Me and Mrs. Flyer will be around the whole time, probably getting drunk. But ABR asked me to make a little advert for them recently, so I did that, and it will be going out on the social media stuff if it's not gone out already. I thought I'd show it to you anyway because it's just a bit of a head swell thing, really. Here's the ad.
Hi, my name's Andy, and on YouTube I go by the name of the Missenden Flyer. That's because I live in Great Missenden and I like to fly aeroplanes, but my YouTube channel is all about motorcycles. I'm looking forward to catching up with old ABR friends. Now, I've only been going to the festival for about 3 years, but it already feels like I've got lots of old friends there, especially when viewers of my channel come up and say hello. I'm really keen to take a look at the new Moto Guzzi V100 Mandello. I think it looks absolutely gorgeous, but I've yet to see one for real, so now's my chance. At the festival this year, you can find me having a Q&A where we'll be talking about all things motorcycle and YouTubing. And then a little bit later, I'll be hosting an exclusive pub-type quiz with my old YouTube buddies Teapot One and Richie Vida. So do come along to that if you can. I describe the ABR festival to someone who's not been before as a big, friendly, fun, motorcycle-themed party. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a bit like a bike meet, but with better toilets, better music, better beers, better... It's nothing like a bike meet, it's just brilliant. I imagine when I'm not presenting, you'll most likely find me in front of the music stage doing some dad dancing with Mrs. Flyer, so with a beer in my hand, so do come and find me there.
So that's fun, isn't it? Anyway, so that's the ABR Festival coming up. Cannot wait for that. Highlight of the biking year as far as I'm concerned. We're due one with some good weather, so fingers crossed on that. Next thing that's coming up this month that that I've never been to before, but I'm thinking of going to, is Cassington Bike Night. Now, this is a massive bike meet in Oxfordshire. It's on June the 26th, which I think is a Monday night. I just wondered if anyone's going, because I'm thinking about going down there. So, and I might make a little bonus vlog thing down there as well. Me and Mrs. Fly might take the wing down there if it's a lovely evening. You know, there's plenty of light now, isn't there? So getting over to the other side of Oxford, I think Cassington shouldn't be a problem. So if you fancy going to Cassington Bike Night and you see us there, do come and say hello. I'll try and make a little video of some of the bikes there. Hopefully that'll be a great night. Lots of people every year say, oh, why didn't you go to Cassington Bike Night? I always forget about it. This time I've actually got it in the diary, so see you there maybe. Just to let you know what's coming up on the channel, I've been a busy beaver of late. On Wednesday, I've got my Street Triple R review, first ride review coming up, that bike that I've raved about during Bike News. Amazing bit of kit. So there we go, spoiler alert, that's coming up on Wednesday. Then next Saturday, I've got a much requested update on how Mrs. Flyer's getting on with her riding. We went for a ride, actually it was yesterday we filmed this, had an amazing ride out, went to a cafe, nice lunch, all that, and we talked about, number one, her bike, the GSX-8, I've got that on the brain, the GSXS125, the bike that she's riding. Such tongue twisters, these Suzuki models. And also she talked about how she's getting on with her riding, so that answers the questions that people will be asking. How's Mrs. Fly getting on with the test, etc. That's coming up next Saturday. Then after that, we've got the Street Triple RS first ride review. Then on Saturday the 17th, we got the first part of a brand new tour series coming up. I mentioned that I've been riding around Italy. I mentioned earlier that I went to the Ducati factory, etc. Well, a couple of weeks ago, again, me and Mrs. Fly spent a whole week, just over a week, riding around Tuscany with Tuscany Motorcycle Tours. We had a fantastic time. Weather was a little bit challenging. Turns out Italy have had, while we were there, they had 6... Alright, so much for my new cooling down the camera thing. It overheated. I was so close as well, so I'm just going to waft this at the camera while I finish. Right, so there we go. So yeah, so the new tour coming on Saturday, 17th of June. I'll put a lot of effort into editing those as well. There'll be fewer episodes, they're quite long, but hopefully you're going to enjoy that. That tour was on a brand new BMW RT as well, so that made it quite different for me. Great chance for me to explore the RT, compare it with the GS. So that's coming up June the 17th. Then we're going to have possibly, well, we'll probably have another classic bike review at some point. Not sure yet which bike that's going to be, but look out for that. They always go down well. I might put out a bonus flying vid as well. I've had a few requests for that, so stay tuned for that. And maybe some other bits and pieces as well. So anyway, hopefully that's of some interest to you. All right, I'm going to go quickly before the camera overheats again. But hopefully you've enjoyed Bike News. And yeah, comments below as usual. Subscribe if you've not done that. Like, share, all that kind of stuff. And look forward to speaking to you again soon. Until then, this has been the Missenden Flyer. Cheerio.